Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to the program. It is Countywide. Brad Miller with you. Happy to welcome into studio today a couple of folks, one of whom we talked to in our newscast last week, joined today by a guest. These are folks from the Verde Santa Fe Owners for Annexation, an annexation move underway with our small community here just to the east of Cottonwood. They want to become part of Cottonwood. Verde Santa Fe, a development, Dave Alton, 20 years,
well, it started,
I want to say, or close?
Yeah, initially was dedicated in 1997. First homes probably went in 1998, and a significant expansion happened in 2003,
4,
5.
So about 15 years old, and I can remember when it was all open space out there.
Absolutely.
Dave Alton is the Executive Committee Vice Chair, Judith Peebles, Executive Committee Secretary, and we welcome the two of you into our studio today.
Thank you, Brett.
We chatted, Dave and I, a little bit last week, and many of our listeners, our radio listeners, will be familiar with some of that annexation. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is, first of all, but then also specifically to Verde Santa Fe and what kind of got this move going. Actually, let's go ahead and start there. Homeowners for Annexation suggests you've got kind of a group together that are interested in doing this.
Yeah, Judith is probably more up on exactly where it started. She was involved a little bit earlier on than I was. So.
It started fairly late last year with a couple of people out of the Amante subdivision who had looked actually at the sewer plant and were concerned about the costs, the potential costs. And then it morphed from there into looking at property taxes. And there was an original meeting with the city people, and it just went on from there. People got interested in what changes can happen if we become part of Cottonwood. Can we save money? Will it cost us extra? And we had a big meeting in January, which had probably 250 people on both sides and people from Cornville who don't live in Verde Santa Fe. And then we just went on from there.
Sure. It just seems like a community of this size. And Dave, you told me the other day, I think, would you say 900?
There's 953 lots. Of that, there's about 30 of them that aren't built, 30 to 40 that aren't built today. So there's over 900 homes in the area.
I was just surprised so many times that kind of happens. And I went around after you told me that, and I asked around the station, just out of curiosity, different coworkers, how many homes do you think are out in Verde Santa Fe? And no one came near the 920 or so that are there, but it gets much, much lower. And as you drive by, as I often do, you just, kind of see what's right up front. But it's an extensive community.
Yeah, in addition to that being the impetus start, a lot of people began to realize that the city had already annexed much of the area around us. Yeah. And that there was a ongoing effort by I'm going to call it Brookfield. I'm not sure what it is comprised of today. Sure. To build in an area across Cornville Road from us called Bella, Montana, where they're proposing at one point over 3,000 homes in that area. Yeah. We, as residents of the county, didn't feel we'd have any word with any sway with the city on how that property is developed. And if it's your neighbor, you kind of care about what happens.
Now, how, if annexation goes through, and again, we'll talk about that process in a moment, but if it does, what specifically kind of leverage do you think that it will give Verde Santa Fe regarding Belamonte?
900 residents who are now voters and elect the city council members, perhaps.
The obvious, okay.
Obviously, everybody gets a voice. There's no argument there, but if I'm an elected council member, I'm going to listen to people who elect me more than I'm going to listen to people outside the city.
Okay, so the obvious play. Another thing that we talked about the other day, and this happens very often again with annexation issues, was fire service, police service.
That has been probably one of the biggest areas of discussion we've all had, we've looked into, we've looked at, and everything else, and it's where the cost savings come from. Presently, the Verde Valley Fire District gets 10% of their budget from the property taxes that we pay. Okay. If we're annexed, our fire protection will go to the city of Cottonwood, and they will lose that 10%, which is not good for them. We understand that. But it will save an average homeowner someplace between $300 to $700 a year in total taxes, even after they pay any city taxes that they might incur they don't have now.
Okay. You've done, and I want to tell our listeners that there's a very comprehensive website and there's an awful lot of information there, and it certainly gives the impression, as I was looking at it the other day, that you folks being those who are in favor of annexation, done a lot of homework on this issue. So before this really got rolling, a lot of study was very obviously done. VSF, as in Verde Santa Fe, annexation.org. Take a look there if you're interested in this, and FA, all kinds of information there to really kind of get some understanding of how this works. You mentioned, and even here today, Judith, you mentioned that there were some folks, I think, in opposition to this. So there's going to be some neighbors who aren't in favor for whatever those reasons are. And I guess the community in general, and certainly you folks, are of the mind that let's put it out there and get the ball rolling and see what happens.
Exactly, exactly. There are people in opposition, and that's their right, obviously.
Sure.
But I think it needs to come down to community-wide vote, because we have a lot of residents, a lot of owners who do not live in Verde Santa Fe full-time. It may be they may be investors, it may be a second home, vacation home, so they're not as up to date with what's going on, and they need to have their voice.
Yeah. Do you get your? Can I ask? Is it a Cornville address?
Yes.
For mail? Okay. I've never, to be honest, at least kind of thought of, for folks maybe in the Prescott or outside our area, Cornville or Verde Santa Fe essentially nestled between the two communities, between Cottonwood and between Cornville. And it's never occurred to me to kind of consider Verde Santa Fe in one or the other. So I could see how you would feel part of one or the other. You did mention, though, that some folks from Cornville who don't live in Verde Santa Fe but live in the community at large have come, and some of them have been opposed. What was their...
They came to the original meeting on January 13th. There was one lady stood up and spoke, and she was opposed, and I believe it was because of the loss of tax dollars to the Verde Valley Fire District. It will impact them. Yeah. She was concerned about how it might affect coverage for them, which makes sense.
By the way, just so you're aware, that this move towards annexation has really begun to push both fire districts, the City of Cottonwood's fire department and the Verde Valley Fire District, to again look at consolidation. They looked at this earlier, perhaps when the Verde Villages attempted an annexation, but this time, because of the fire chief from Verde Valley Fire District last night told us, because of the current economic situation, the thought towards annexation, they are more open to perhaps consolidating fire service throughout the whole valley, which really makes sense to all the operational people.
Right, yeah. And that's a question that has come up a number of times. Excuse me, even I know, I think Montezuma Camp Verde looked at these kinds of issues. And here again, largely driven by growth and those kinds of issues, these are questions that come up. The annexation process really has begun. We'll talk a bit about the city and what they've told you folks when we come back from our break. Our guest today, Dave, excuse me, Dave Alton and Judith Peebles with the Verde Santa Fe owners for annexation. We'll be back to Countywide right after this.